Thank you. My question was sort of along the lines of like what happens when we have something that's covenant. So for example, marriage that is then taken up by the world and kind of taken elsewhere. Like what are the expectations then on us as Christians? Because like the world has now kind of adopted this idea of a covenant, but they are now redefining it. So to what extent are we required to uphold the covenant aspect of that? And then where do we break when it starts kind of deviating from God?
Boy, that's a great question. Very relevant. I mean, I think, to be honest, I suspect behind that question is the redefinition of marriage, same-sex marriage. Is that partly behind what you're...
A little bit. And
Yeah.
also if, for example, like I know a lot of people in my community also will have like two separate marriages. For example, one that's illegal, the covenant, I guess, from a legal perspective, and then the one that's in the church. And I'm just wondering, like, if that's even a biblical.
Yeah, very good. I've written on that. Good point. No, there are good people that hold that second view. I don't support that view. We were talking, who's talking about the Puritans? Well, it was David Robinson, wasn't he, talking about the Puritans today? This is really fascinating. Church marriages are fine. Do you know that most of the Puritans refused to have marriage in a church? It was always done by the civil magistrate. Now that sounds odd to us, because marriage is a Christian, or at least a Christianized institution. But it's more correct to say marriage is a creational institution. This is really important to understand. It's a creational institution. Married Muslims are still married. Understand? Marriage came about before the fall. We would not have a church, at least not as we understand it today, had there not been a fall. But we would still have marriage. It's a fundamental primordial institution. So in answer to your question, we must go to the Word of God. It's a creation ordinance, and we must conform ourselves and our lives to what the Bible teaches. Now, if the state redefines that, we can't adhere to anything that is contrary to the law or to the Word of God. I know some people have recommended that because of the redefinition of marriage, not to get a civil marriage license, but only get married in the church. I radically disagree with that. I know good people hold that, but I radically disagree. The state has a vested interest in marriage. Now, the fact that the state might pervert that in permitting same-sex marriage doesn't mean the state doesn't have an interest legitimately in marriage. The state absolutely has an interest in marriage. It's remarkable Christians don't understand that because of this interiorized, because it's basically marriage is about how well I do in the church and how well we love one another. No, marriage is necessary to a society.